talking, to a monitor, so you can bear with me here. And Anthony, I hope that if you have any questions, or if anyone else does, if there's any problems in this talk, that you can, interject through the mic, because I can't read the computer screen. And anyway, so what I was going to talk about today was, I'm going to basically cover 3 points. And one of them is, I'm just going to talk generally about direct action. And then I was going to talk about whether or not militant direct action in particular is the most effective tactic in today's social and political climate. And then the third thing that I was going to talk about was I was going to try to debunk some of the myths perpetrated by the pacifist movement regarding militant direct action. So generally, direct action is portrayed by the commercial media in its black and white terms as either nonviolent direct action or as urban guerrilla warfare. And direct action is a tactic that covers all the different shades of gray. It can be anything from workers organizing, workers co-op, to people organizing a demonstration, occupying their workplace, all the way up to guerrilla warfare. I think that the cliche one front, many struggles is very fitting in this respect. And the thing that unifies all the different forms of direct action are the basic principles that they're based upon. And I'm going to take the liberty of talking a little bit about what I think the principles are that direct action is based on, what defines actions as direct action. And one of them is that people who are using direct action as a tactic are empowering themselves and their community to change things for themselves, as opposed to appealing to a vanguard or a political party or corporations to change things for them. And another principle is that people engaged in direct action respect diversity in both, as both an individual, on both an individual level and also on a social level. On an individual level, what I mean by that is that we respect the individual's unique circumstances and their point of evolution politically, and therefore not everyone is going to choose to engage in militant direct action. Some people are going to be, let's say, single mothers, may choose to engage in the tactics of direct action in their workplace or in terms of, organizing in their community. And that we have to respect that all the different forms of direct action are equally important if we're going to build a strong resistance movement. We can't put a hierarchy of importance on actions that, for instance, people engaged in militant direct action are more important than those who are engaged in so-called nonviolent direct action. And on a social level, diversity, respecting the concept of diversity means to me that we, in the long term, that we respect that there's going to be different cultures and different spiritual beliefs and different ideologies all over the globe. And then let's say someday we actually do get an anarchist revolution, that we don't become holy rollers like has historically been the case, particularly in the Western world, and we don't get on this trip of, deciding that we have to go all over the globe and impose anarchism on other cultures. And the third principle is that we respect the equality of life. In that respect, what I mean is that people engaged in direct action are respecting the environment and animals and humans as all having a right to life and to exist, not for humans to think that we have dominion over the earth. And this little talk, I guess, about principles, it relates to a question that always comes up whenever I talk, and that is people will say, I was known for being involved in a group called the Women's Fire Brigade, and we burned down a bunch of violent pornography stores. And people always say, well, what makes you any different for burning down these red hot videos, they were called? What makes you any different from the right-wing Christians who burned down abortion clinics? And what I always say is you can't strip an action from the politics or principles behind it. And it's the politics that define the action. To equate the burning of an abortion clinic with the burning down of a violent pornography store would be like saying that fascist demonstrations are the same as demonstrations organized by people opposed to the occupation of Iraq. It's a ridiculous argument to think that you can strip the politics or principles from an action. A lot of pacifists have appropriated Henry David Thoreau as a using his writings as an example of their beliefs. I would argue that, and Henry David Thoreau wrote a book called A Plea for Captain John Brown. And Captain John Brown was a white anti-slavery freedom fighter who led an armed raid on Harper's Ferry and was arrested and executed. And in his book, Henry David Thoreau said, "It's not the weapon, it's the spirit in which you use it." So, moving, to sort of the next point, I think that direct action can also take the form of terrorism. There have been people who are, direct action is usually associated with anarchism, and there have been anarchists who have engaged in terrorism, which is commonly recognized as attacks against individuals, civilians. And there have been, popular movements, individuals in the military, all sorts of people have employed actions against or violent acts against individuals. And I wouldn't say that, anarchism historically has been free of this, and I also would not categorically condemn violent acts against individuals in all situations historically and socially. I think, whenever we make judgments, you have to realize that every situation has its own unique, circumstances. For example, the Palestinians, for example, are victims of a campaign of genocide. Their lands are occupied, and so I wouldn't presume to make a judgment as to condemn as a tactic of suicide bombing in that situation. But I am going to argue here today that I think that the direct action in terms of property destruction is the most effective form of direct action at this point in time in North America and probably Europe. Not because I think that we should be free of violence and we should just leave it up to people in the third world to get their hands dirty or anything like that, but simply because I do believe that it is the most effective tactic as long as we have room to move and we have the freedom to use other tactics. And the reason that I say that it's the most effective is because I think that the engine that is driving history is capitalism. And capitalism is a series of economic relations. Capitalism reduces all life to its economic value. And so I think that if you're going to disable an engine, to use an analogy, you're not, a vehicle, for example, you're not going to go for the rear view mirror or the upholstery. You're going to go for the engine. And so using that analogy, if we're going to weaken capitalism, if we're going to bring capitalism down, if we're going to fight capitalism, then we should go for its strength. And in that sense, I think that going for the economic system, property, that is what the capitalists are most affected by, the dropping of the prices of their shares. Destabilizing political areas so they don't want to invest in those areas. Property damage, causing them financial damage. That's what corporations are sensitive to. Unfortunately, I don't think corporate policies reflect any concern for human life, and I think that individuals in modern day multinational corporations are expendable. Back in the 30s, there were small